All right, so start with a question from me. Could you tell me what inspires you to make films?
I guess I've always grown up wanting to make films, and it's been a part of, my life ever since I was young, running around with my cousins with a camcorder. So, I'm very happy to be able to pursue my passions and, being here in Boston to have a world premiere with everyone. So it's been really special. Hi everyone, my name is Dominic Czarnota. I'm the writer and director for the film Love Eternal.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Anthony Sayo, and I am the actor for Love Eternal. What inspired me to be an actor? Probably not so surprising anymore, but growing up, I was inspired by professional wrestling. I wanted to be, as a kid growing up, I want to be the action guy. I want to kick bad guys' butts.
Well said. I'm so sorry about your love affair. Bob White, I'm the animator who made Platypus Silk. Dreadfully serious piece. Someone was laughing at my... In any event, David Lynch, rest his soul, when he was in art school, wanted to be a painter. And then he said, I was thinking about maybe making the painting move. And so he moved on to animation and then into feature film. I have a similar attachment to making pictures move. Thank you. All right, let's take some questions from the audience. Yes, sir.
For Love Eternal, that was a really nice house you filmed in. Where did you borrow that from?
So we had to pay for it. We're not able to borrow it from. But it was, we're from LA, we filmed it up in LA. And so it was a house, I scouted a ton of houses to try and fit, the vibe for the character of Paul and the kind of where he would play. And once we got to this house, I knew it was exactly what I was looking for. And it had a ton of windows that I wanted to play with for the night and day scene. So kind of the moment I stepped foot into that house, I knew we were going to film there.
All right. Yes, sir, right there.
What inspired you to make these?
Prior to film, I used to work as a software engineer for many years. So that it kind of, I knew I always wanted to tell some sort of sci-fi story. I just wasn't sure what it was going to be. So I think like a few years ago, I was following kind of the development of AI and all this stuff, and I saw that people were making like chatbots to bring back like historical figures and talk to them, and people were using AI in this, kind of these weird, odd ways. And so the story kind of formulated in my mind after that, like what would happen if someone, who was dead and they were trying to talk to them. So that was kind of the early seed of this story, and from there it just kind of snowballed into that. It was also my graduate thesis film, so it was interesting to watch the development of it, because AI wasn't as much in the mainstream, and even like the terms that I was using to describe things during the writing process, I ended up cutting a lot of that because there was so much in the mainstream news that I didn't need to explain so much anymore. So that was kind of an interesting development during the script process, but that's kind of why, how I stumbled onto this film.
I must congratulate all of you. I can't see. I think there's 200 people out there. We are, batting cleanup. Susie, where are you? This is the most magnificent person who programmed each and every one of these sessions. And what inspires me to make films? People like her. No kidding. We're in love. Don't tell anybody. Next question. Thank you. Next question. Yes.
The theme of a lot of the films that I've seen this weekend has been medicate and avoid working through things and stuff like that. And I just wonder, since we all use some sort of technology daily, like what, if anything, from your own experience, like inspires you when you get into making a story like the ones that you've created?
My office and my apartment filled with action figures, used to be called toys. And if you've ever read, I think, Hell House, or seen the film, there's a battery that you live inside that keeps you alive and feeds your soul. And my soul is fed by, walk into Kamikaze down the street, the comic book store with all the toys. That's where I get it. That's not acting, that's where
Just share, because just like I said, I was inspired by action heroes. And then sitting there, watching Love Eternal, as part of Boston Sci-Fi 50, it's a different experience. And believe me, I don't watch this film too often, Love Eternal, I don't, because being an actor, I don't want to see myself depressed. This guy, Anthony's, again, depressed. And I enjoy watching my films being an action guy who wins. One of my favorite movies is Lord of the Rings, where the human spirit, wins. But reflecting and watching it now, I loved being part of it, and thanks to Dominic for casting me in this project, because this is a project where the hero falls. And I love the idea that I got the opportunity to do it, because being human and being vulnerable, we have a breaking point where the human spirit breaks. It's not always win. In real life, humans not always win. There's a point where we break, and I'm happy that I was able to effectively show it, because me being an audience, I thought I was also moved by watching the final product.
I mean, I think it's just, for me, it's, looking at all these other amazing art forms, whether it's books or music, and just, seeing how much how much the people as artists and doing everything and putting their soul and their heart into it. I think that, that definitely drives me and helps me, like, put my own vision and kind of, open myself up more to be more vulnerable, to put that, to put a touch of myself into these types of films. And I think anyone who works in any sort of like creative medium knows, how much you care about, the projects that you work on, and you really do try and put yourself, all these endless, sleepless nights trying to get this done. And I think that's, what keeps me going, and kind of how these stories get made, at least for me.
Okay, if I can throw in something here, isn't it just more than just he fails? He learns he needs to let go.
I'm not exactly sure if the character was able to let go, or probably he just broke. We haven't talked about it, but for me, he just broke. I'm not even sure if he was able to let it go.
I remember, I think it was Ada who said something to that effect, like, you have to let go. So basically, he wasn't able to. He broke because he couldn't. All right, thank you. Another question? Yes?
I love both of these, and Bob, I've seen your work before, and I just don't know how a human brain can develop that kind of stuff.
Shame on you.
It's wonderful. Both of them, I think. Well, Bob, for you, I'd like to know: what's next for you? How often do you produce these things? And for Dominic, I'd like to know if you're going to extend this idea, or if you have new, to do like more versions of this theme, or are you going to do new shows, new ideas that you have in mind? What are they?
I'm in my 80th year. I've made 100 short films. I've made 70, shame myself, over 70 animated ones. And I make one a year because I love to. I have a full-time job. I'm still teaching in college. And I got to tell you a story. The last time I was on this stage, 2 years ago, we had a party in here. It was a costume party. And I can't walk up the goddamn stairs, so I came around the side door, right? Well, there's a lip on the edge of the stage. And right there over there is an impression of my face. I feel, no, I'm fine. See, that was for you. I'm still alive. So I will be making more, the good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And thank you so much for that question.
I do hope we make more because I really loved it. I would definitely love to expand this, and I'm working on expanding it into a feature. So right now I'm just looking into more funding production grants to make that possible. This was already expensive enough to make for just the short that you saw. And in the meantime, I'm also working on writing more short films. The next ones will be a drama, and then there's maybe another sci-fi that I have in the works. It might be a little bit before I can get that one done.
Next question. Yes.
Question for Eternal. Did you, was it your idea for the story arc to end the film the way you put it? Or did you have another way there?
No, I always kind of knew it was going to end this way. There's multiple drafts that I went through, but it was always going to end in terms of Paul and Sophie not being together, and Sophie not wanting to be there, in her deceased form, like in this simulation. So that was kind of the ending that I knew I always wanted. There were definitely a few different revisions of like that last scene in terms of like the location and how they would get to that point. But at least in terms of like them not being together at the end and Paul being by himself, that was there from the beginning. It was just, as a writer trying to get to that point successfully, that went through a few changes.
It was incredibly effective.
So, thank you.
Really, really spot on.
Thank you. And thanks to Anthony for suffering and acting a lot. You actually wasn't able to see with the headset on, so we had to do that dance scene a few times.
Can I share something about the ending? So when Dominic emailed me that I got the part, and so I went back to the script, and then it was like 16 pages of script. I love everything from page 1 to 14, and then towards the end, this is so depressing. Maybe he'll change his mind as when we film. Probably there will be revisions that the story will end in a not very depressing way, where the hero would somehow recover and have a happier. Maybe he will move on and find someone else. But but no. He has a clear vision, and that's what we were able to see. And I also loved it because it's different. Vulnerability and human weakness, so relatable and true.
And challenging to portray as an actor. No?
Not so difficult because I have, for me, of course, I have loved and lost in my real life. So to portray these kinds of emotions is easy. I can access these emotions easily. And also I'm a piano player as well. I've been playing for the rest of my life. And fun fact, I'm also trying to realize why these kinds of emotions are easy for me to access. It's because as a piano player, I only play the saddest songs. So for example, Valentine's Day, just yesterday or a couple of days ago, I only play the saddest love songs on piano. So I haven't played a sad love songs lately because no one recently has broken my heart. So I'm like happy doing acting. So staying problem free.
I have to ask, what's the saddest love song?
How Could an Angel Break My Heart? By Tony Braxton and Kenny G. And another sad love song is I Cannot Make You Love Me.
Yeah, I Can't Make You Love Me.
I Can't Make You Love Me. Those are the songs that I love to play. I Can't Make You Love Me.
Okay, another question?
It's a question for Dominic, and I know you said that you rented that beautiful house for the scene, and I could be remembering that first image wrong, but there's that very distinct black and white wall, and the two actors were sort of like framed in an embrace, but like very clearly that line was cutting between them. Was that deliberate foreshadowing or a happy accident?
So a lot of the visual style that I was talking with cinematographer throughout, and one of the reasons we also chose the house, it had a lot of dividing lines, and so once the update happens and Sophie's in her blue wig and everything, I wanted to shoot it in a way where they would never be in the same shot together, and if they were, something would always be dividing them in the frame. So that was kind of foreshadowing it from the beginning, and then just using those windows, like the edges of the windows, to like kind of separate them to show that they're out of sync. So a lot of that was very intentional, and because because of the production schedule and like the restraints that we had, everything was like really intentionally shot listed before we came on set. Basically everything that we shot listed, we ended up filming, and so we really tried to prepare as much as possible to get that all done. But yeah, a lot of those like visual styles in terms of like the framing and the composition, that was all planned beforehand.
Great stylistic choice.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question actually about cinematography. I noticed in the shot with the two of them and the reflection in the background, the focus changing. Was that a reference to decision to leave?
Yes, it was. Park Chan-wook has been a hugely influential director for me, and so I really love his work. And so I wanted to see how I could replicate that, or I'll replicate at least a little bit of that. So then I dug deep into it, and I found out they had a lot of money, and they had a lot more time and a lot more VFX stuff, and so I was trying to figure out how we could do that. So then I told my cinematographer, Alejandra, and I was like, I had this really crazy idea. What do you think if we do it this way? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. And so we did it on a much lesser scale, but it was definitely a reference to that. Thank you.
Suzanne?
Oh, I just have a final comment, so after the question and answer.
Okay. Next question?
I have a technical one.
Yes.
Dominic, couldn't help to notice that the actress, the way she gets the fur color the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. She does a movement that, in the detail there, I kept me confused if it was on post. You guys glitched the image, or that was actually her handwork.
So that was our actress who played Sophie Hanika did like this insanely amazing job of staying very still and not blinking a lot, which was just, when I was editing, I was like, this is amazing. She just hasn't blinked for like 30 seconds in the shot. I'm going to use it. So That was with VFX work, like cutting her hand out and just like slightly jittering it and moving it, and just like overlaying it. And we shot a lot of plates as well, where after the scene was done, we would just ask everyone to step out, just so we had that blank base plate to use for VFX work as well.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yes, a question for Bob. What software do you use for your animations? Or, I mean, I assume you've used many over the years, but do you have a favorite?
I work in primarily 3D, and I use Lightwave. It's a full service. You can design in it, you can create the characters, and you can animate within it. For this one, I used, this was primarily hand-drawn with some effects added, rippling effects, done in Photoshop, where one can animate in Photoshop, and Final Cut Pro for little twisty kinds of things. Thank you.
All right. Yes.
A question for Dominic, and thank you all so much for being here. Did you have a thought process about Sophie's kind of different iterations being related to her having a change if she were to be alive, or did that have anything to do with reincarnation? That she might be kind of that different version if she were to pass in a different life?
Oh, that's an interesting, the way you phrase it is very interesting. So my versioning of that was that once the software update were to happen, it's supposed to be a more advanced system, to be more like lifelike, and to take, you know, all these AI parameters, kind of how we see with the development of AI now, from like these smaller chat GPT things to, you know, be able to do like full on, you know, responses, imagery, and that. So it's kind of a reference of like that the software is just so much more updated, that Sophie is much more lifelike and much more human-like, and factoring in, you know, this is kind of who she would be if she was alive right now. So that was kind of the thinking with like the update as well. So it's also, you know, just a newer version, a more human version than like in the previous part of her. It was more like digital, almost more like Android-like, even with her walking, but now it was more fluid. And just more fun and animated and live.
All right. Could we have a final round of applause, not just for our filmmakers here, but for all our filmmakers?